And we are live. This is the experience of a very small channel's live stream, which must wait for several minutes to get a viewer. Nonetheless, we are going to wait and see how long it takes. So, if you're watching this after this published, how you guys doing out there? Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe to the content. And I want to wait for a couple people to enter into the live chat. If you are into the live chat, make sure you drop a comment. Oh my goodness, I heard an echo and it's on my other laptop. I was hearing myself talk. Give me 1 second. Oh my goodness, I heard an echo and it's on my other laptop. I was like, all right, make sure you guys drop a comment once you're in. Like the title says, let's talk about critical race theory, because critical race theory is the driving force of everything that we see today. Critical race theory is the main idea that is really pushing all of the ideological democratic ideas. And I think it would be important to just understand it from a practical level, watch it played out in person, and just identify that at the end of the day, critical race theory is just racism against white people. So we're going to see that critical race theory in the end teaches prejudice and racism, but because it's against white people, it is largely accepted in the academia. So as we're waiting for people to come in, um, just have that in mind. I have this screen up. How did critical race theory begin? Unlike some academic disciplines, critical race theory contains an activist dimension. Now, it's easy to understand who these activists are. The activists in this discipline are is the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, by and large, subscribes to critical race theory. So as you see, it's trying to what this is trying to show you is that some disciplines, it's just an idea. It is just content to be understood. Critical race theory, on the other hand, is different, which we're going to spend some time talking about tonight. Make sure to drop a comment once you're in. Once I get my first comment, I'll go ahead and get started. Life of a small streamer. Nobody wants to watch a small streamer. I get it. All right. It looks like we got a few people in. If you guys don't mind dropping a comment so I could see who's in here. Life of a small streamer. Make sure you guys like the video, drop a comment, and feel free to ask questions. Feel free to stop me, or not stop me, but just write down clarifying questions. Write down clarifying questions, and like I said in the comment section, we're gonna go over two resources. The video is not gonna last more than 50 minutes, so we're already 10 minutes in. Happy wife, happy life. Christine, how are you, sis? Brother, you are a soldier of the truth. Keep going, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. There's a saying that says real recognizes real. So if you recognize me, that must mean you're a real one also. Make sure you guys, as you're coming in, go ahead and drop comments. Thank you, Christine, for being the first. All right, on my end, it's showing I have 4 people watching, so we could go ahead and get started. Because I'm not like ABL where I wait for like 1,000 people, or Tatum. Tatum waits for like 10,000. But let's go ahead and get started. So I just wanted to have a discussion, and also just focus on one topic. There's a lot of current news going on, yada yada yada, all the stuff. Donkeys, hello, hello. The word racism is so blown out of proportion that it's losing its meaning. And today we're going to talk about its alternate meaning, because this stuff, the reason why what Donkeys is saying is true is because of critical race theory. So everything that we're seeing, I want to start here. Everything that we're seeing in the media, everything that we're seeing in the Democratic Party, everything that we're seeing basically with identity politics, whoever is practicing identity politics, whoever is subscribing to social justice, they have roots in critical race theory. Now, critical race theory, if you Google it, critical race theory and introduction, here is a good book that I have read. Oh, I've listened to on Audible, and you could read the first 44 pages for free. And I mean, just reading the first 44 pages, because I read that before I bought the book on Audible, it is very educational, so that you know the enemy's playbook. Because this theory, I am confident to say, after I've read it, thought about it, looked at examples, it is a theory that practices racism. It is a theory that teaches prejudice. It teaches to judge innocent things in the world as racist. And you guys are going to see that. Christine says, how do we deal with people that call us racist and Trump tards? So Trump tards, I would say completely dismiss it. Who cares what they say? Trump tard. I mean, at that point, you're probably dealing with a troll. You're probably dealing with someone who's not even worth rejecting, rebuking. Kind of just keep it moving. The racist part though, that has to do with dignity. And at the end of the day, I've been called a racist, and the way I have handled it is just reject it. No, I'm not. Can you prove to me that I am? And if you can't prove to me that I am, then you know what? We can agree to disagree. And you are falsely accusing me. That's how I've dealt with it. And I've also flipped the script and said to the people calling me a racist, maybe it's you who's racist because you look at the world through the lens of race. When you look at the world, you find so much value in judging others as racist. Think about just I would assume, I don't know for sure, Christine, but I would assume that the only reason these people call you racist is because you're a white woman. You probably necessarily didn't do anything. You just exist and you're part of a system that says that white is more powerful than everybody else. Therefore, you must carry some implicit racism. My mom was raised by a black woman. My beloved grandmother is black. It really hurts me when people call me names. Yes. I've had friends call me racist. They subscribe to critical race theory and I didn't. And we had our disagreements to the point where I was called a racist. And yeah, you know what, names hurt, but at the end of the day, what we have to be able to know is that what other people say about us doesn't define us. What other people say about us isn't true if it's false. Like, if you're not a racist, meaning you don't look at other races, other people with different skin tone, and you don't think less of them. You don't prejudge them. If you don't do those things where you look down on another race or you prejudge another race, um, you're not a racist. But the reason why people can conclude racism at this point is because of critical race theory. So, Christine, I'm sorry that people, there are ignorant people that are going to say names to us, but if it makes you feel any better, I've been called racist, and look at me. All right, people have thought I'm people through my life. People have thought I'm Mexican. People have thought I'm Hawaiian. People have thought I am some sort of Indian. I mean, so for me to be called racist, that's when you know racist the word racism is changing, just like Donkey says. So let's go ahead and jump into this real quick. How did critical race theory begin? Unlike some academic disciplines, critical race theory contains an activist dimension. It not only tries to understand our social situation, but to change it. It sets out not only to ascertain how society organizes itself along racial lines and hierarchies, but to transform it for the better. Now, I want you guys to understand that critical race theory is an activist movement. So unlike academic disciplines, because this is a discipline in the universities. This is taught at the college level. This is taught at the high school level. This is taught in church. This is taught in the workplace. All the anti-white training you guys have been seeing. Uh, it is critical race theory. So unlike some academic disciplines, it contains an activist dimension. Now, some of the most known activists for critical race theory: Robin DiAngelo, all right, Ibram X. Kendi. These people are activists. Not only them, because those two people that I just named are actual critical race theorists. Like they have studied it. They have PhDs in different disciplines that correlate with critical race theory. They are steeped in racial studies. So they're actually critical race theorists. Some of the activists that push critical race theory are found mostly in the Democratic Party or Black Lives Matter. The organization Black Lives Matter not only is, excuse me, not only is ran by people who self-proclaim that they were trained by Marxists, they also believe in this theory right here. So it not only tries to understand our social situation, but change it. So that is why there is anti-white training in corporations now. That is why Coca-Cola had a full lecture and PowerPoint on why you should stop being white and what whiteness is. All right. So the changing part is now being acted on in our society because it has left academia and now it is out in the real world. So anytime you see anti-white training, anytime you see what happened in Oakland, where a group of people are putting money together to give to Black and Indigenous people of color, all right, that is rooted in critical race theory. So it sets out not only to ascertain how society organizes itself along racial lines and hierarchies, but to transform it for the better. Now, that is where it gets screwed up because some people think they're actually doing something better. They think that doing anti-white training is for the better. They think accusing all white people of racism is for the good of the society. They think that abolishing whiteness and saying everything is racist, they think that it is for the better. Some people are what I would call race pimps. You know, think of Al Sharpton, race pimp. All right, these people make money, I mean millions of dollars pimping people out for race. The Democratic Party, if their biggest hook wasn't race and oh your experience validates everything, then they wouldn't have any voters. So the Democratic Party is also race pimps because they're not critical race theorists, but they see how good critical race theory is to legitimately say and claim that all of America is deeply racist. The reason why they can make those claims is because some parts of academia have backed them up and given them uh, doctoral power, PhD knowledge to make such claims. So let's go ahead and look. Let's go ahead and take a little bit deeper look. And I just want to let you guys know that we're gonna do some reading tonight, and like I said, we're not going to go past 50 minutes. So if you have a question, comment, concern, experience, if you've experienced this in the workplace, then please go ahead and share what you've seen. So let me see if this is all right. So the best place to start when it comes to understanding critical race theory is to actually get your hands on some critical race theory work. Now, this is a book, how to critical race theory and introduction, and you guys just saw the title of it on the last page. But I want you guys to focus on just how anecdotal it is. Anecdotal meaning it is very steeped in your experiences. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Like I said, if you have a question, go ahead and drop that. So chapter 1, an introduction. Like I said, the first 44 pages are online for free. I've purchased it on Audible. It is a great thing to listen to understand the enemy's playbook. But chapter 1, an introduction to critical race theory. Think of events that can occur in an ordinary day. A child raises her hand repeatedly in a 4th grade class. The teacher either recognizes her or does not. A shopper hands a cashier a $5 bill to pay. The clerk either smiles, makes small talk, and deposits change in the shopper's hand or does not. A woman goes to a new car lot ready to buy. Salespeople stand about talking to each other or all converge trying to help her. A jogger in a park gives a brief acknowledgement to an approaching walker. The walker returns the greeting or walks by silently. You are a white person, the child, the shopper, the jogger. The responses are all from white people and are all negative. Are you annoyed? Do you, for even a moment, think that maybe you are receiving this treatment because of your race? Or might you think that all these people are merely having a bad day? Next, suppose that the responses are from persons of color. Are you thrown off guard, angry, depressed? You are a person of color, and these same things happen to you. And all the actors are all white. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Do you immediately think that you might be treated in these ways because you are not white? If so, how do you feel? Angry? Downcast? Do you let it roll off your back? And if the responses come from fellow persons of color, then what do you think? Suppose the person of color is from a group other than your own. Sometimes actions like these stem from mere rudeness or indifference. The merchant is in a hurry, the walker lost in thought, but at other times, race seems to play a part. When when it does, social scientists call that event a microaggression, by which they mean one of those many sudden, stunning, or dispiriting transactions that mar the days of women and folks of color. Like water dripping on sandstone, they can be they can be thought of as small acts of racism, consciously or unconsciously perpetuated, welling up from the assumptions about racial matters most of us absorb from the cultural heritage in which we come of age in the United States. These assumptions, in turn, continue to inform our public institutions, government, schools, churches, and our private, personal, and corporate lives. Sometimes the acts are not micro at all. Imagine that the woman or minority standing alone and ignored at the car sales lot eventually attracts the attention of a salesperson. They negotiate and she buys a car. Later she learns that she paid almost $1,000 more than what the average white male pays for that same car. Uh, the fourth grade teacher, shortly before beginning a unit of world cultures, passes out a form asking the children to fill out where their parents are from. The bright child, who raises her hand earlier, hesitates, knowing that her parents are undocumented aliens who fear being discovered and deported. All right. So, as you guys see, critical race theory has the ability to make people consciously consider race as a reason for the interactions that they're getting. Now, critical race theory is coming from the presumption that all of these things happen to us. We go through our day and we experience things that maybe might be unpleasant to us. We go to pay for something at the grocery store. We hand the person money and they look at us with a straight face. We're walking down the road and people cross the street on the other side. We think it has something to do with race. All right. Think of anything, a guy cuts us off in traffic or a woman cuts us off in traffic, and we associate that with a potential bid of racism. That is what critical race theory starts at. Critical race theory starts with the presumption that everything in this culture is normally racist. And we're going to figure that out as we push forward. But the normal way society does business is racism. That is what critical race theory teaches. Critical race theory teaches that all white people are complicit in racism. Therefore, critical race theory teaches prejudice, because you walk in looking at the world based on these hierarchical structures, and critical race theory will teach you that white has power, black and brown has less power or is oppressed. White can perform racist acts, black and brown cannot perform racist acts. So as we move forward, just keep that in mind, because there's a reason why this book starts off with all of these anecdotal experiences. Because in critical race theory, and today, in today's modern age, the usually people talk about racism from personal experience, meaning, oh, I experienced, therefore you can't tell me I didn't experience it, or I experienced it and who are you to discredit me, or I experienced it and I know it's true for all white people. That one white person treated me like that, therefore all of them are like that. It's a reason why some years ago a black man went on, I think, Fox, and you guys can look this up on YouTube. And he said, I am gonna raise my children to not be friends with white people, or I'm going to raise my kids to not trust white people. And he said that out loud on national TV. And he said it very confidently, and he was convicted by it, that there is no reason for me as a black man to trust and encourage my kids to be friends with white boys and girls, because it's all anecdotal. It is all anecdotal. It is all anecdotal. So, what is critical race theory? If you guys have any questions before I move on to that next part, I will give you guys an opportunity to drop a comment. And I just want to let you guys know, as I wait for anybody to drop a comment, I am now on Patreon. So if you would like to become a monthly supporter to the channel as I grow, you guys can visit patreon.com, Conservative Republic. And I would also ask that you guys share some of my content, share some of my shorter content, where I'm talking about cultural issues, issues in the church, because critical race theory is in the church full blown. Make sure you guys share some of my other content so that we can get to 1K subs. All right, I don't see any questions. So let's go ahead and move on to the next part. What the heck is critical race theory? You guys have heard of it. What is it? CRT for short. What is critical race theory? The critical race theory movement is a collection of activists and scholars interested in study and transforming the relationship among race, racism, and power. Now, this is the key thing. They are so interested in changing. They're not interested in just learning about it. Oh, yeah, white privilege exists. Oh, yeah, whiteness this. Oh, yeah, all this stuff that's conspiracy theory. What they want to do is they want to create a curriculum that allows them to attack what they perceive as racism. So they're studying and transforming the relationship among race. That is why in today's day and age, you can be called racist for anything. You could cut somebody off in traffic. Oh, that's racist. You can ignore somebody while you walk by them, and you may not want to look at them. Well, that's because you're racist. All right. All of these things are racism. The movement considers many of the same issues that the conventional civil rights and ethnic studies discourses take up, but places them in a broader perspective that includes economics, history, context, group, and self-interest, and even feelings and the unconscious. So that's where we get unconscious bias, unconscious racism, implicit racism. It's from this. Unlike traditional civil rights, which stresses incrementalism and step-by-step progress, critical race theory questions the very foundations of the liberal order, including equality theory, legal reasoning, Enlightenment rationalism, and neutral principles of constitutional law. So instead of Dr. Martin Luther King's civil rights victories, they want to take this a step further because they do not like incrementalism. They do not like it that they had to fight for equal rights, desegregation, step by step. They basically want it all now. They're like, oh, we want all the power now. We don't have enough power. We don't have enough power in government. We don't have enough power in the schools. We don't have enough power in the private market. We don't have enough power in the culture. So we want it all now. We do not want a incremental advancement of anti-racist policies or achievements. They want it now. All right. So during the past decade, critical race theory has splintered. Although the new subgroups, which include a well-developed Asian American jurisprudence, a forceful Latino critical contingent, and a feisty queer crit interest group, continue to maintain relatively good relations under the umbrella of critical race theory, meeting together at periodic conferences and gathering, each has developed its own body of literature and set of priorities. Now, this is the key thing, guys. They develop their own literature. They make up their own thing. They literally make up their own thing. They they can move forward and reinvent what racism looks like, which is why people now can be easily classified as racist, because within the actual teaching of critical race theory, they have the ability to change and make things new. They have the ability to make their own body of literature, which is why this literature is gaining ground, because in the 60s, 70s, when it was birthed, to now, it has started to be able to convince people more with more persuasive lingo that they have created. Think of white privilege. White privilege is a critical race theorist word in the 21st century. White privilege used to be real and fundamental to the United States of America. It was true in 1865. It was true in 1776. It was true um, at the time of abolition and after. All right, racism was the norm. There literally was white privilege back then. And but what they're trying to say now is that there hasn't been much difference. All that's happened is racism has transformed. And so they use the same word, white privilege, but now there's not really white privilege. The only reason why they could leverage that word is because there was white privilege. And who are you to say that there is that racism has not been abolished? And since racism will always exist in one capacity or another in all societies, what they think that they have the green light to then say white privilege is a fact in America that hinders Black people and brown people and benefits everybody else. And that is the reason why they're able to create their own literature and set of priorities. All right, moving on with the text. For example, Latino and Asian scholars study immigration policy as well as language rights and discrimination based on accent or national origin. A small group of African Indian scholars addresses indigenous peoples' rights, sovereignty, and land claims. Scholars of Middle Eastern, South Asian backgrounds address discrimination against their groups, especially in the aftermath of 9/11. Of the diffusion of critical race theory to other disciplines and nations, see section E of this chapter. So the early origins of critical race theory. Critical race theory sprang up in the 1970s as a number of lawyers, activists, and legal scholars across the country realized more or less simultaneously that the heady advances of the civil rights era in the 1960s had stalled and in many respects were being rolled back. So what they thought they saw was regression. They thought they saw regression. They thought that the steam that Dr. Martin Luther King had gained ground with. They thought that the colorblind ideology that Dr. King had promoted. They thought that all of that stalled out and that Black and brown people's rights were slowly being rolled back. That society after civil rights, so after the Civil Rights Act, started to make a little bit of progress and then ultimately dip back into white supremacy. So that is the problem that they think they saw. They think that they saw that the rights of Black and brown people were being rolled back. Therefore, in comes critical race theory as a solution to that perceived problem. Now, you guys have to understand that's what they think they saw. That doesn't mean that that was an actual problem. They thought that was a problem, thus birthing critical race theory. So, like everybody knows, if you don't diagnose the problem, if you don't identify the problem properly, then you will come to wrong conclusions. And as we've already discussed, they did not like incremental progress. They wanted all the power now. They wanted more. They wanted all of it now. They didn't want to carry around the burden of being slaves anymore. They wanted equal standing with the society in the 1960s, 1970s. Now, as we all know, as we sit here in 2021, immense progress has been made with race relations between white and Black. People of color are seen equal under the law, which is a good thing. People of color can go to schools with white people, which is a good thing. People of color can move into all white neighborhoods, which is a good thing. All of these things are available to us. We're not discriminated against because of our color to get certain jobs. We're not discriminated against due to our color to live and receive the freedom of being an American citizen. Like, for anyone to say that life as a black or brown person in the 1960s is not light years ahead and so robustly gratifying and fulfilling and peaceful in 2021 compared to 1960s, I don't know where they live. I really don't, because we have made humongous strides in government. Barack Obama, black president. Ben Carson, HUD, all right, the director of HUD. Kamala Harris, now a black, or whatever you want to call her, she is a minority woman according to them, vice president. Like, all of these people of color have emerged, have moved forward, have risen. All right, Tim Scott, senator in one of the most racist states in the United States of America. The history of South Carolina and racism is deep, and they have a black senator. So all I'm saying is there's example after example after example of black people prospering in America. And yet they think that this study right here is still useful today. Realizing that new theories and strategies were needed to combat the subtler forms of racism. Now, there goes the implicit racism thing that were gaining ground. Early writers such as Derek Bell, so these are now some of the founders, Derek Bell, Alan Freeman, and Richard Delgado put their minds to the task. They were soon joined by others, and the group held its first workshop at a convent outside Madison, Wisconsin, in the summer of 1989. Further conferences and meetings took place. Some were closed sessions at which the group threshed out internal problems and struggled to clarify central issues, while others were public, multi-day affairs with panels, plenary sessions, keynote speakers, and broad representation of scholars, students, and activists from wide variety of disciplines. So the relationship to previous movements. As the reader will see, critical race theory builds on the insights of two previous movements, critical legal studies, and if this doesn't alarm you, that this movement is birthed out of radical feminism, oh my goodness, to both of which it owes a large debt. It also draws from certain European philosophers and theorists such as Antonio Gramsci, other people. All right, blah blah blah. Who cares about these people? Sojourner Truth, Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, I don't mean who cares about these people, but these are the people that they drew inspiration from. So, skipping all the names, from critical legal studies, the group borrowed the idea of legal intermittency, the idea that not every legal case has one correct outcome. Instead, one can decide most cases either way by emphasizing one line of authority over another, or interpreting one fact differently from the way one's adversary does. It also incorporated skepticism of triumphalist history and the insight that favorable precedent, like Brown versus Board of Education, tends to deteriorate over time, cut back by narrow lower courts interpretations, administrations, foot dragging, and delay. All right. So, anyways, they what they're trying to say here is that the precedent of Brown versus Board of Education really doesn't matter anymore because it gets eroded over time. All right. So, even though the Supreme Court struck a right conclusion about the place of a black and brown person, in the education system, even though the Supreme Court judged in our favor, at the end of the day, it's still not enough because it's starting to deteriorate over time. Give me 1 second while I plug in my laptop, or my laptop is going to go dead. Make sure you guys drop a comment. If you got a comment, make sure you drop it. All right. All right, so we got Christine. Seems like critical race theory is just taking us backwards instead of helping us. It's really racist, in my opinion. My grandmother says they fools. It is racist. It is racism. And with the last 6 minutes that I have with you guys, I want to skip forward to a part of this book that I want to emphasize on, and then we'll wrap up. Um, Christine says, I saw a video where an old white guy said this is white privilege, then proceeded to pull out his tooth out because he couldn't afford a dentist. Okay, that's like being crazy. Uber to your mom's house. Ayo, dog, it's Sunday shot day. Take that shot to start off the week. All right. Yes, MAGA. Hopefully our dude runs again. If not, DeSantis or Rand Paul can get the job done. All right, but no shots for me. No shots for me on Sunday. If liquor is allowed in the house, I'm definitely not taking shots. But I feel you, bro. You could take a shot for me, though. How about that? You could take a shot for me. So with the last bit of time, all right, I want to fast forward real quick. Principal figures, and you guys can read this on your own. Spin-off movements, basic tenets. So I just want to we're going to this will be the last commentary I have on this book. I wanted to get into a video, but I'm coming up on my time, so I'm going to cut it short. And the next time I do a live stream that focuses on critical race theory, I'm gonna pull that up because this week I'll have some live streams, but it's gonna be geared towards the current events of the day. If I get some feedback of people who want me to continue covering this throughout the week, then just drop a comment, and then during my next live streams, I'll add this in to break up the monotony of just talking about current event, because this is an actual discipline that is going to be around for a long time. All right. What happens at the border, all right, is going to be forgotten. All right. This crap is going to just continue to pervert the minds of all people who consume it. I'm going to take a shot for you, brother. Always Trump, DeSantis, 2024, no cap. Yes, sir. That would be a dynamic duo. That would be like Steph Curry and LeBron. That would be like Michael Jordan and Pippen. That would be like Shaq and Kobe. I mean, Trump and DeSantis, come on. Hammock Camping says black and whites both have pro-black biases. Black people have 3 times more pro-black bias than white people have. So it's no wonder that black people feel they are being treated unfairly. All right. And I would also add to that black supremacy is just as bad as white supremacy. And it's actually a real thing. So basic tenets of critical race theory. I want to talk about this. I might go over 50 minutes. I probably will. But the key thing is I have to be off before 9:45. So if I go past 50 minutes, just know that I'm not in trouble with the wife. So just let you guys know, because I'm probably going to go over 50 minutes, but that's okay. Because my wife said, I want you to be off by 10 so we can spend some time together. And of course, I love spending time with her. So I'm going to wrap this up after I make my final points with this part of the book. Turn on the money sign so us subs can cash you out next time, bro. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. I didn't know that I had to turn that on, but thank you. Next time I jump on, I will definitely have that feature set up. Appreciate you, bro. So basic tenets of critical race theory. What do critical race theorists believe? Probably not every writer would subscribe to every tenet set out in this book, but many would agree on the following propositions. First, racism is normal, not aberrational, normal science, the usual way society does business, the common everyday experience of most people of color in this country. Now, that is where critical race theory teaches prejudice. If you believe that racism is normal, it's the usual way society does business, the common everyday experience of people like me. I experience racism every day. If you really believe that, then what that does to your mind is that allows you to go through experiences with people who are opposite your race and conclude that they are racist. The things that they do is because of racism. This teaches you that the people in power in society, which they're claiming is white people, that they are always going to be the vehicle of racism. Therefore, as a black or brown person, or even a white person, you can walk around with this prejudice that all white people are racist. And this is why critical race theory will end up teaching you prejudice, because it teaches you to look at the world through this lens that racism is normal. If racism is normal, then that would mean white people have to be racist. That's what it means. Racism is normal, therefore white people are normally racist. That is what this study teaches. That is the conclusions that critical race theorists conclude, that America is racist, all white people are racist. You're either a vicious racist like a KKK person, or you are a more subtle racist. You have unconscious bias, which makes you racist as well. So that is the first thing that I want to point out with this basic tenets of critical race theory, is that it teaches you how to prejudge people. You walk through life thinking that everything, every situation in your life has something to do with race, which is why the book started off with when we talked about the beginning. The introduction talked about all of these experiences that people go through during the day. You hand a cashier money and they give you a straight face. You're walking on the sidewalk, you walk by somebody, you give them a smile, they don't say anything to you, they don't smile back. It's because of racism. That is their logical conclusions. All right, so that's the first thing that most people that think about critical race theory would conclude with. Second, all right, let me go over to the book. All right, second, most people would agree that our system of white over color ascendancy serves important purposes, both psychic and material, for the dominant group. So they come in with this presumption that white over color is a fact of life. In the year 2021, it is a fact, story done, that white people are more powerful, and they get treated a certain way because white over color ascendancy. White over color ascendancy serves an important purpose, both psychic. So they're trying to jump into the minds of people that uphold white supremacy and say that these people like their status in society. Therefore, they're not going to try to be anti-racist because they benefit from being white. They benefit from whiteness. So it serves an important purpose, both psychic and material. Material meaning money, assets, investing, buying a house. All of these things, white people are able to prosper in more. Right? The proverbial, oh, well, white people have 10 times the wealth as black people. Well, what I say to that, maybe that part of the black community that doesn't have $160,000 in net worth, maybe they need to make different choices. Maybe they need to get their credit up. Maybe they need to go invest in some things. Maybe they need to open up a Roth IRA. Maybe they need to get another job, a second job. Maybe they need to be in one relationship with one person. Maybe they need to do something different. And that's anybody. If you don't have a $160,000 net worth, then maybe you should do something different about it, me included. I don't have 160,000 net worth. So guess what? I have to work for it. All right. So all of this psychic and material prosperity for being white. I mean, it's what they believe. So one, racism is normal. Two, racism and white supremacy serves an important purpose for society, because most people in America are white. All right. The power dynamic has to be set up this way, or the majority people in this country will lose power. And of course, white people don't want to lose power. They want to cling to their power because they love their power. They love their place and status in society. So that is what critical race theory establishes from the beginning. All right. All right. The merchant in black. Yes. And I want more people to understand that critical race theory is just racism. Yes, it is racism. If you have somebody in your life that believes in critical race theory, you should just let them know, hey, you believe a racist doctrine. You believe a racist discipline. You believe, like, think about this. Colleges and universities fund racist teachings in their school because critical race theory is being taught in the schools. These curriculums have been around for a long time. The state funds racism because if you fund critical race theory, you fund racism. So yes, the merchant in black. Long story short, critical race theory is just racism. All right, so continuing with the book, the first feature, ordinariness, means that racism is difficult to address or cure because it is not acknowledged, which means you have to acknowledge your white privilege or we can't move forward. That is why Coca-Cola has went forward and said, okay, all you white people, come here, sit down, watch this PowerPoint. Robin DiAngelo is going to tell you how racist you are and how complicit you are in racism. You're going to sit here and you are going to acknowledge your racism. All right. So moving on, colorblind or formal conceptions of equality expressed in rules that insist only on treatment that is the same across the board can thus remedy only the most blatant forms of discrimination, such as mortgage redlining and immigration dragnet in a food processing plant that targets Latino workers, or refusal to hire Black PhD rather than a white college dropout that do stand out and attract our attention. All right. One, they are completely wrong about their conclusion about color blindness. Color blindness can do so much more than stop the most blatant forms of discrimination. That is not true. Because I am colorblind. I subscribe to being a colorblind person. Now, what that doesn't mean, I'm not saying I don't see race. Of course I see race. When my eyes lay on you, I see what you are and I see what color you are. So being colorblind doesn't mean, oh, I don't see race. No, it means that I don't prescribe value to your race. I don't look at your color and then associate a bunch of things to your character that I have not experienced yet. So it is more, being colorblind means you give somebody the opportunity to prove who they are. You don't prejudge them based on their color. You give people the opportunity to show you who they are instead of you assigning conclusions based on their skin color. So no, color blindness is not only good for the most blatant forms of discrimination. It is good on everyday casual levels when you run in and you rub shoulders with people of different races. Because as a colorblind person, when I see a white person, I don't look at them and see, oh, privileged, oh, power, oh, oppressor, oh, colonizer, oh, all these things. No, I look at them, I see a white person. Hey, how are you doing? What's your name? All the casual stuff. I don't, what do you do? What do you like to do? Oh, that's awesome. All the small talk to try to get to know somebody before you really know them. All right. That is because when you walk into a scenario or a relationship being colorblind, you allow people to show you who they are. You don't just prejudge them like critical race theory likes to do. So their conclusion of color blindness is really off, which is why they run with this critical race theory crap. All right, the second feature, sometimes called interest convergence or material determinism, adds a further dimension. Because racism advances the interests of both white elites, materially, money, and working class Caucasians, physically, large segments of society have little incentive to eradicate it. Consider, for example, Derek Bell's shocking proposal, discussed in Chapter 2, that Brown versus Board of Education, considered a great triumph of civil rights litigation, may have resulted more from the self-interest of elite whites than a desire to help blacks. So think about this. Derek Bell, one of the founders of critical race theory, he is running with a presumption. He is running with an assumption that the Supreme Court of America ruled in favor of black and brown people through Brown versus Board of Education for their own self-interest. He can't prove that. It's never been proven that Brown versus Board of Education was a self-interested ruling. And even if it was still to the benefit of black and brown people. So either way, their conclusion is ridiculous to assert that white people are only going to make moves that benefit them. Last time I checked, Black people did that too. Hispanic people did that too. We all work in a way where we think about ourselves first. But that is a very normal, common thing. When I go to work, I'm thinking of taking care of my business first, taking care of myself first, so that I could be prosperous for my family. All right, when you go to work or when you live your life, you're usually taking care of yourself first so that you're not a hindrance to anybody else. So everybody practices self interest. But when white people do it, it is racist. All right, because they have all the power. Therefore, they shouldn't be doing things in self interest. They should be doing things in our interest because we're too lazy to go get our own. We're too lazy to go accomplish anything. We want to wait and play the victim card. All right, it's nonsense. A third theme of critical race theory, the social construction thesis, holds that race and races are products of a social thought and relations, not objective, inherent, or fixed. They correspond to a biological or genetic reality. Rather, races are categories that society invents, manipulates, or retires when convenient. So this is the whole thing. All of these things are social constructs, which means we created it. There is a reason why society is different in 2021 than it was in 1400. It is because the societies do have a role in constructing what is normal, what is not normal, what is accepted, what is not, what are good foods, what are not, what are good practices, what are not, what are laws, what is lawlessness. Yes, society does construct those things. But as we have experienced over and over and over as the years have gone on, what some people have done, mainly in the Democratic Party and other social justice activists, is they want to completely reorient everything that has to do with race and other things that were once normal but no longer normal. The easiest example is transgenderism. All right, so transgenderism. So if you look at this, race, so social thoughts and relations. All right, the social construct, it's not objective. So man, female is not objective. Male, female is not objective in this view. It is not inherent. You are not inherently given male features or female features. You're not born with that. That's not objective. You can't prove that. You can't prove female, male. All right, it's not fixed. It's not fixed. They correspond to no biological or genetic reality. There is no biological or genetic reality. Rather, races are categories that society invents, manipulates, or retires when convenient. People with common origins share certain physical traits, of course, such as skin color, physique, and hair texture, but these constitute only an extremely small portion of their genetic endowment. Are Let me read that part again. But these constitute only an extremely small portion of their genetic endowment, are dwarfed by that which we have in common, and have little or nothing to do with distinctly human higher order traits, such as personality, intelligence, or moral behavior. That society frequently chooses to ignore these scientific truths, create races, and endows them with pseudo permanent characteristics is of great interest to critical race theory. Now, the whole thing about society constructing it, what the thing that they pull from that is this: our society was built by white people. That's what they teach, right? They teach that white people exploited black people back in the day. White people built up all these systems to benefit themselves at the hindrance of black and brown people. That all of these systems were constructed by white people for white people. That is what they believe. And no matter what laws have been passed, no matter how much ground we have gained through civil rights, no matter how much equality there is, equality of opportunity in America, they are always going to conclude that the society is still deeply racist because it was formed by white racist men for white racist men. So that whole social construct that they're focusing on in critical race theory lays the foundation for them to assert almost anything that they want to assert, and to run with all types of assumptions that they've already said in this book. And we are only on page 9. So if just to recap real quick, they assert the assumption that society is normally racist. And what that means, what that implicitly means is this: for society to be racist, that means a lot of white people, or most white people, or all white people have to be racist. That is what critical race theory asserts in the beginning. So it teaches prejudice, like I've said in the past. Critical race theory teaches prejudice because it teaches you that all white people are racist. All right. That's just as crooked as me teaching my son all black people are criminals. All Hispanic people are immigrants. All white people are privileged because they've exploited black and brown people at some point in time. So if you just flip it, if you flip it on its head and you put it in another direction, it sounds racist all of a sudden. All right. And the reason why it sounds racist all of a sudden is because it is reverse racism. That's all it is. And reverse racism is just when somebody of color, black, brown, whatever, I don't care how you want to say it. I'm just using their words. I don't consider myself a person of color. Okay, I really don't. But reverse racism is when somebody like me is racist against a white person. Now, some in the critical race theory community says that's impossible. You can't be racist against a white person because you have no power over them. And that's their argument. But anyways, all of these things are established based on a huge assumption. So as you go through this book, as you listen to Robin DiAngelo, as you may, continue to push forward with this study on your own and just look at critical race theory at a deeper level, it is clear at the beginning that the book sets a precedent to practice prejudice. It sets a precedent to assume all white people are racist. And then it's prescription, so that the way that they want to fix it is everything that we see now: anti-white, all right, anti-white training, anti-racist training. All of these things are just what they call not reverse racism, being an anti-racist. All right. So all of these things are this is an introduction to everything that we're seeing in the world. So like I've said multiple times before, the reason why Oakland, California is not going to give any money to white people is because of critical race theory. The reason why Coca-Cola wants to indoctrinate and feed propaganda to all their white employees is because of critical race theory. The reason why the Buffalo school systems are teaching kindergarteners, little children, 5-year-olds, that white people are complicit in racism. The reason why they're doing all that is because of critical race theory. So, like the merchant in black said, critical race theory is just racism. Yes. All right, Uber to your mom's house says, yeah, I just vibe with people and the personalities. Who cares about skin color? We're all human. People are dumb judging skin colors. Yes, you're coming from a place of ignorance if you want to really assign so much power to people's color. And that's what critical race theory teaches, that color dictates power. Color dictates everything. No, what Martin Luther King was trying to get, when he said his infamous speech of, I want my kids to be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Critical race theory flips that. Critical race theory says, oh, we're going to judge you based on your color, and we're going to look at your character after or maybe never. Who really cares about your character? You have the right color. That is why I just want to bring you guys before I close. That is why there are things like this floating out there. All right, this is why publications like The Root say whiteness is a pandemic. The Root accused of racism after Peace declares whiteness is a pandemic. What? One, let's just get this straight. Whiteness is a conspiracy theory. It is just a way for black and brown people to claim the victim during any situation where maybe a white person had got the job or was given some advancement. All right, that's all it is. Whiteness is a conspiracy theory. Systemic racism, as talked about by Black Lives Matter and the Democratic Party, is a conspiracy theory. And And this is what the writer, all right, Damon Young, who, believe it or not, he's a writer for the New York Times. He said it shortens life expectancies, it pollutes air, it constricts equilibrium, it devastates forests, it melts ice caps, it blah blah blah. It does all these things. Oh, white supremacy is such a big deal in my life. Yeah. Anyways, um, let's just finish. Actually, I think we could stop that for right there. So just to wrap up everything that we've talked about in the short amount of time that we've read the book, we can conclude that critical race theory starts off with an assumption that society is deeply racist from the beginning. Therefore, all of the experiences that you experience that might be not desirable to a person of color, it's probably because of racism, which is why they started off the book with all the anecdotal experiences. Excuse me. So that's I want to establish that first. Um, secondly, like the book talked about, this whole idea, it's really a crazy idea that white people are just here and everybody else is here. I mean, if that's how you really want to look at the world, you know, one, you have a wrong conclusion, because it is up to you, yourself, and you to advance yourself. Like I said earlier, if you don't have the net worth of the average white person, it's your fault. What have you not done? What degrees have you not finished? What businesses have you not started? What skills have you not gathered? What have you done to not be worth $160,000 in net worth? What is your credit score? What, like, how many kids did you have out of wedlock? Like, all of these things that can negatively be detrimental to any race. All right, what are you not doing to have the wealth of a white person, of the wealth of a white person? And the cop out is, oh, well, it's because of whiteness. It's not my skill set. It's because society is holding me back. But um anyways, guys, in conclusion, I would just say, like I've said, critical race theory teaches prejudice and it teaches racism. All right. The merchant in black made a correct statement when he said, or she said, whoever the merchant in black is, I just assumed your gender. Critical race theory is just racism. That is true. So as you guys walk through the week, and obviously there's going to be stories of race that get brought up, just notice, look for correlations between the story and some of the writings of critical race theory. All right. Why is it that we assert racism so quickly? Why is it that racism still has a big piece of understanding with George Floyd's situation? Well, it's because if you believe in critical race theory, whether you know you believe it or not, you think that all bad things that happen to black and brown people are because of racism. So I'm going to leave that right there. I will be on this week doing a couple other live streams. I'll make sure to put a reminder, but make sure you guys are hitting that notification bell so when I drop new content, you're notified. Thank you guys for a great night, great live stream. Happy Sunday. Hope you guys rest up. Have a great week. I will see you during the week. May God bless you all. Peace.